Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Moving Forward. I want to say to you, in all sincerity, that tonight I must apologize for being somewhat psychological, but at the same time being spiritual. What is happening in our politics, I look back as to who and what our forefathers and mothers were about. What came to mind is that they had the spiritual touch about them. Now that is lacking in the home and in the public domain. Yes, we have abandoned that spirituality and culture for one where we are prone to judge success by the index of our salaries or the size of our automobiles or house, rather than by the quality of our service and relationship to humanity, i.e. one another. So tonight, I am, instead of feeling on top of the world and relaxed, I feel downcast because of the lies that I see in the politics or politricks of our country. However, I firmly believe that the country is without a doubt moving forward. And the Prime Minister, Philip Joseph Pierre, regardless what some dismal and archaic opposition wants us to believe, there are those who are somewhat biased due to political affiliation and who refuse to open their eyes to the progress we are making under the Philip or the Prime Minister and government. We see this political deviousness, duplicitous attitude, even in our churches, when a particular deacon has the audacity to talk about splitting the country and closing his eyes to what is being said by others in his church. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this tonight in all sincerity. If I thought for 1 minute that the present Prime Minister was not performing as he should, I would be the first to point that out and would not hesitate to do so. If after highlighting an attitude and it continued, then I would have no option but to remove myself from a soulless society with dignity. However, I've always believed that where there's a will, there is a way. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Oh, Father in heaven, we come to you tonight to ask that you continue to bless our Prime Minister in the work he's doing, in bringing some sanity back to this country. He's only one man, and we need everyone on board this progressive train that is moving on to make St. Lucia one of the best in the Caribbean. I believe without a doubt that he is the best leader in the Caribbean at this present juncture, because you are in him and guiding him in every way possible. We thank you, Lord, because without a doubt you are the Prince of Peace, the King of Kings, and the Lord of Lords. Amen. Tonight we quote from the Bible, Malachi chapter 4, verses 1 to 6. The Lord Almighty says that the day is coming when all proud and evil people will burn like straw. On that day, they will burn up, and there will be nothing left of them. But for you who obey me, my saving power will rise on you like the sun and bring healing like the sun rays. You will be as free and happy as calves let out of a stall. On the day when I act, you will overcome the wicked, and they will be like dust under your feet. Remember the teachings of my servant Moses, the laws and commands which I gave him at Mount Sinai for all the people of Israel to obey. But before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes, I will send you the prophet Elijah. He will bring fathers and children together again. Otherwise, it would have to come and destroy your country. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Ladies and gentlemen, I call upon you to have faith in the Prime Minister, unlike what a deacon had the guts to say to me about dividing the country. Many of those who serve the Lord are simply not honest with themselves because they allow politics to overcome them and to steal their souls. That will never happen to me because I always pray to the good Lord to do what is best for the country as a whole, and not party per se. There is no doubt in my mind that we have a more transparent government in the Philip J. Pierre than we have ever had under Alan and his band of merry men and women. Philip is without a doubt a diligent prime minister in whom dignity flows about him like springtime. The last prime minister always seemed to digress from the work that had to be done because his concentration span was absolutely poor. Maybe, just maybe, he was so engrossed with himself and those around him. His mind, in my view, was like a conundrum. And so what came out of the mouth, or his mouth, was meaningless. Some in our midst have such a contaminated mind on white superiority that they cannot come to grips with the thought that they are as equal as any so-called white person. Is there such a color? They must never forget that Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley and others have tried to inculcate into our minds as black West Indians that we must release ourselves from mental slavery. When I look back at the politics that we had in 2016 and 2021, it's like living in a country where Tweedledee and Tweedledum politics seem to exist. The government then simply continued to embarrass us by the violation of everything good that our forefathers and mothers stood for. We had a prime minister and his lapdogs called poodles who could not help but lie. They did so as if they were simply breathing. They simply did not understand that they had to be doing things for the greater good of the country. The leader was all about the self-image of himself and poodles and simply failed to contribute significantly to the development of the country. Now they want the country to believe that it is this government that was the cause of their poor management by blaming them for the cardinal sins they committed between 2016 and 2021. In my view, they were a despicable and delusional government. Some would want to term them pathological and narcissists. In the lies they spewed out, day in and day out, even more so now in opposition, they are without a doubt a danger to all of us. More so, their word of mouth marketing, I call it, in which they spread their lies and despondency. What they fail to realize is that their lives are well documented. And the horrible thing is that that is to their detriment of not only themselves but of the country. Yet they continue with those lies over and over again. They yearn for that power that was taken from them. They fail to realize that lies have serious impacts on people's lives. And not only that, it is a form of peddling untruths which have an effect on real lives, more so our children and their children. It can have a devastating effect by tearing people apart. Lies, in my view, do not have the capacity to survive. More so the election lies which ruins people's lives. Ladies and gentlemen, I've come to the conclusion that many in the public service have to give the people the best service that they can, because it is not right that some people should take their politics into their workplace, as has been alleged. It is sad when people abuse their positions because it spreads distrust in the country. I say this in all sincerity, that many are still peddling the maliciousness of the last government and should have been released by now. Did not the last government do something in that nature? If they thought that you were a supporter of Labour or the Labour Party, party affiliation, in my view, has no place in the public service of this country or any country. Media people like myself can say what we think, but it must be correct and within reason. Some we can hold behind, or to avoid causing alarm and despondency. But it seems as if many in our society are all about themselves, more so now in the public service. I believe that service to the country should be sacrosanct. When some nincompoop of a deacon comes to me in church on a political issue, I find it hard to stomach. And it shows that even in some of our churches, politics seem to have infiltrated the minds of those who should know better. The spreading of distrust to or about the good work that Philip is doing is beyond comprehension. The people who enable the leader and deputy leader of the opposition of the United Records of the Poor are, in my view, simply indoctrinated by Alan's complexion and the thought of him coming from a wealthy family. What some of those supporters of the United Records of the Poor fail to realize is that most people, on the whole, don't like a cheater and a liar, because then it is beyond a joke and causes friction in the society. When I hear Alan talk, I have to quote what a lawyer said to a peddler of political poppycock when he said to the individual that you peddle snake oil. That is junk. Your lies are well documented because of the vile accusations that are made. Is it not the same in this country with some in the opposition? They simply abuse their position. They're defiant in spreading their lies and innuendos. Therefore, there was a distrust, not only by foreign investors, but by some in our midst. But there are those in our midst who are too blind to see, which is the title of this program. At times, when I hear the lies that comes out of the mouths of the opposition, it reminds me when lecturing on the Second World War, how much of Germany were indoctrinated into lies, etc., of Hitler's Nazi Germany. At times, when I look at the higher echelon of the opposition, I'm convinced that some are without a doubt amoral, which means that they are without moral standards. Most, in my view, are psychotic in nature. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I'm not here to take pot shots at anyone, but it is simply my interest for this lovely island we call St. Lucia, the Helen of the West. Everything I do or say is for the greater good of the country. I say loudly and without a doubt that I am at peace with myself when I bring out some of the things that infuriates me about the politics of this country. And it's at this juncture I'll take my first break and I'll be back. Welcome back to Moving Forward. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm seeing are people who are unrepentant and defiant because they are indoctrinated into Alan's and Guy's alleged lies. Many see or seem unrepentant and defiant. Why? Because they have a common enemy to hate, and that is the present government, more so its leader, who literally kicked them out into oblivion of St. Lucian politics. They want to come back with a vengeance by peddling as much lies as they can to unsettle the country's confidence in the present Prime Minister. But I tell them this, they have a steep mountain to climb, and they simply don't have the wherewithal to climb that mountain because they simply lack the skills, more so where real politics are concerned. Some may not like what I have to say, but truth must prevail regardless what. I say this within all the sinews of my body. This is an opposition that loves to spread alarm and despondency and seem to think that lying will achieve their goals. I never thought any political party can lie at that level of deceit and deception. The only set of people I've seen in the political world at this present moment is Trump and the Republican Party. This opposition is without a doubt pervasive and dishonest. How much longer must they continue the web of deceit and play games with the minds of our people? What we now need in St. Lucia is true peace and tranquility. And that is not merely the absence of tension, but the presence of justice. At this juncture, I want to say something to both parties, and that is, the next thing we must be concerned about, if we are to have peace in this country and good will towards one another, it is the non-violent affirmation of the sacredness of all human life. We saw one killed last night. Every man, ladies and gentlemen, is somebody because he or she is a child of God. We cannot allow crime to become burdensome, that our citizens cannot go out when they want without having to witness violent behavior, whether by the young or old. We see a lot of aggressiveness on our roads, and it is time that the country have a lot more traffic policemen on our roads. Vehicles are sometimes cumbersome, but motorcycles are much easier to stop. The wanton mad driving or riding of motorcycles on our road, they are both a danger to man and beast. I do not minimize the complexity of the problems that we are faced with on our roads in achieving a safe road environment. However, I'm convinced that we shall not have the will, the courage, and the insight to deal with the situation we face with atrocious bad driving and riding, and now what prevails on our road. Therefore, unless in this area of development we have the insight to deal with such matters, and unless in this field we are prepared to undergo a mental and spiritual reevaluation, then the dangerous driving which now exists will take many lives. Now is the time to take the bull by the horn, to bring about a safe road network in this country. There must be some form of discipline that must be obeyed by all. No one, and I repeat, no one is above the law. The law of the land must be paramount at all times, because if the minibuses with passengers on board seem to overtake, signal and immediately goes out into the traffic as if they always have the right of way. And when you try to tell them they are wrong, they get a very aggressive attitude by insulting you. This cannot continue in a civil society. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a new focus, which will enable us to see that the things that seem more real and powerful are indeed now unreal and have come under the sentence of what I term death. It is not enough to say we must not be relentless in the pursuit of having a non-violent set of riders and drivers on our roads. That is necessary. Government must take urgent action because it is necessary, again, as I mentioned, even at this moment in time. Yes, brothers and sisters, we must concentrate not merely on the eradication of the aggressive riders and drivers, but on the affirmation of safety on the roads of this country. When I see the rhetoric that is not part and parcel of the political opposition towards the unity government, and I go on to this now, I believe that people like myself must speak out in order to do battle for my philosophy, that of having society at peace with itself. Since the last government lost its mandate, they have from there on decided on a warpath. As the leader at one time mentioned the word war, there I believe I ought to say something as what I believe in my life. Believe that thing so fervently that I will stand up with it till the end of my days. I can't make myself believe that God wants me to hate. I'm tired of the lies that have engulfed us since the last government of the United Wreckers of the Poor. And I don't call them United Wreckers of the Poor, I call them Wreckers of the Poor. Was kicked out of government. Therefore, I'm not going to let my oppressors dictate to me what method I must use in order to fight for what is right, in order to have a decent society. Brothers and sisters, I say to you that we have a power that cannot be found in lies, misinformation and disinformation. Therefore, do have a power, and that is to stand up and be counted, to do what is right and just for this country of ours. Oh yes, we have a power that cannot be found in bullets and guns, but we have a power as a people. It is a power as old as the insights of Jesus of Nazareth and as modern as the techniques of Mahatma Gandhi. I want to inculcate this in all our minds, that if humanity is to progress, then Gandhi was inescapable. He lived, thought, and acted inspired by the vision of humanity, evolving towards a world of peace and harmony. We may ignore him, but we do so at our own risk or peril. I believe in man's capacity to better himself, or man or woman to better themselves. And Philip will make that come true, because his election as Prime Minister gave the country the moment of inspiration that was lacking for 5.5 long years for the country's people to better themselves. On that day, July 26, 2024, was without a doubt the inspiration and confidence that the people needed after suffering under the previous government, more so the poor and the very poor of our country. The future for those people who had to suffer the pains and anguish because of that poverty now feel a sign of relief, because they know that the pain and suffering was over. And they began to have confidence, not only in the human race, but in a good governance. Electing Philip was a proud and dynamic experience for what we term democracy, which immediately became clearly visible, not only to St. Lucians and the rest of the Caribbean, but the whole world. Prior to Philip being elected, they had lost confidence in the island and its government, and therefore refused to invest in the country because of poor and abysmal government. Therefore, what we saw by the then government is to pretend that investors were coming to invest, but with St. Lucian's money in their name. And they took no risk. It was without a doubt a psychological ploy by Allen in bringing in individuals as investors, but paid by our government. What a con trick and a con merchant. Yet he had the audacity to explain to the country what a con merchant was. But he was throwing that at the present Prime Minister, whose toes, in my view, he cannot kiss. I say this without hesitation, because Philip is an economic graduate. He's savvy, unlike Allen, and has a band of merry men and women. I say this in a vexed mood. When it was filtered to the country that to an extent one signed a document that was crucial to the development of the country, and he did not know what he was signing. Have we forgotten him? Yet this individual still wants to come back into government. St. Lucia, more so, those in Choiseul. If you continue to choose this individual, then you will be forever living in the dark. I see that part of the country as an area that has produced hardworking, innovative, culturally sound, and some brilliant academics. With the election of Philip, over 3 years ago. The majority of our people have somewhat reached into and beyond themselves and tap in the transcendent ethic of love. Therefore, they have overcome the blatant acts that was being perpetrated by the last government. More so the idea of the Fortuna Doctrine, which was blatantly unforgivable because it was simply satanic. Brothers and sisters, I tell you this, we shall overcome the evils that existed over the 5.5 long years by the last government, because the Holy Father in heaven spared us by sending Philip Joseph Pierre as our Prime Minister. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, with our faith, we shall overcome these evils that existed before the coming of our dear friend Philip. I tell you this in all sincerity, that love, truth, and the courage to do what is right and just at the next election will be our guidepost to the future of St. Lucia. By putting our faith and trust in Philip and the Unity Party, people of this beautiful island, Philip brought us a new dimension of dignity to our lives and a new hope for our survival and community, and that of mankind in this lovely island we call St. Lucia, the Helen of the West. Philip always had a deep commitment in helping his fellow human beings. He's about getting things done. His capacity is that he exhumes the love ethic of Jesus above mere interaction between individuals of party politics to a powerful and effective social force on a large scale. This way of thinking is a method adopted by him in regards to social reform. Still thinking back to my program last week in terms of what I said about the UWP gathering, this is where Guy Joseph showed a huge picture of Alan as leader and tried to compare it with a small photograph of Philip. Ladies and gentlemen, that was by far a much smaller version of Philip, and he had the audacity to compare them as leaders of this country. What a joke. Pappy show. This was simply being mischievous and to many a form of racism. The nincompoop did not seem to understand what leadership is all about. What I saw was a subtle form of racism. His actions, I'm sure, electrified and educated those watching, or the uneducated watching, to the caliber of the man and the mendicants in his party. He and others seem to be bending their knees to this individual they call leader of their party. I have a high regard for Philip because he's a doer, not one that continually breaks things down for gain, as has allegedly been said. Once again, I go back to when both were ministers of tourism, and therefore I want to ask a simple question to all St. Lucians, more so the deputy leader of the opposition, as to how many hotels did he build as Minister of Tourism and Prime Minister? Simply none. Nada. And now the question, I'm sure many of you will be asking in terms of the present Prime Minister, is there. I'll take a break and I'll be back to answer that question. Welcome back to Moving Forward. And I said I'll answer that question. The present Prime Minister, about the present Prime Minister. Well, to many, he built quite a few hotels. And I say it in all sincerity, too many to count. And therefore I leave it to you, my listeners, to go and check for yourself so that you cannot say, I am lying. Seeing is believing, and the taste of the pudding is always in the eating. I do hope that the results do not choke you. I go beyond to ask you to show me what you achieved as Minister of Infrastructure, Guy, and when you were Minister of Economic Affairs in this country. What I want to first remind you of is the fiasco with the water situation coming out from Dominica and elsewhere to help St. Lucia after the passage of Hurricane Thomas. Comrade, what happened to that water? I also want to ask what happened to the equipment that was stored dealing with the building of the St. Jude Hospital. Final question for now. Were you the one involved in that famous Pajura letter? I am still wondering. The people of the country would all like to know more about that letter. It is very intriguing. Not only that, I now slip another one in, and that is to do with the copy of the review that was done on St. Jude that cost $1 million. Finally, comrade, the people of the country would like to see an overall cost of the box you were building for the St. Jude Hospital. And to put the icing on the cake, I want to see the plans and how much it cost to put it together and who were the architects of that plan. Ladies and gentlemen, one thinks of Alan and Philip in terms of the office of Prime Minister. I am of the view that Alan was the destroyer, whereas Philip is the doer. Therefore, I believe in his capacity to better the position of the country and to make that come true. Brothers and sisters, his election saved the country, and immediately there hovered about us a monumental inspiration that was lacking for 5.5 long years. And now, once again, one can better himself or herself. Yes, oh yes. On that day, July 26, 2024, that was the inspiration and confidence that many were waiting for. And in 2024, the future development of the country, especially those who had to suffer numerous pains and anguish because of poverty, is now feeling a little bit more relaxed. They know that much of the suffering was done, and they began to have confidence and faith in the human race. Electing Philip was a proud and dynamic experience for what we term democracy, which immediately became clearly visible, not only to St. Lucians and the rest of the Caribbean, but the rest of the world. Prior to Philip being elected, the leader of the world had lost confidence in the island and its government, and therefore refused to invest. That is why Alan had to give the interpretation that investors were coming. That, in essence, was the flashing mirrors and a pathological ploy of bringing in individuals as investors, but lo and behold, the money was being paid by St. Lucia and not investors. Yes, it was a con trick, and that even individual must never be re-elected to continue on such a dishonest path again. With the election of Philip, investors are once again eager to invest because of their faith and trust in him. Therefore, with the election of Philip 3 years ago, the majority of our people have somewhat reached into and beyond themselves and was able to tap the transcendent ethic, as I mentioned before, of love. Through this, they have overcome the blatant acts that was being perpetrated by the last government. More so the idea, as I mentioned before, the Fortunate Doctrine. This was blatantly unforgivable because, as I mentioned, it was satanic. Brothers and sisters, I tell you this, we shall overcome the evils that existed over the 5.5 long years because the Holy Father in heaven sent us Philip. And this answered our prayers and the sufferings of the poor. Oh yes, the Holy Father in heaven did send us this individual and appointed him or anointed him as the servant of the One Most High, our Heavenly Father. So tonight I feel good to share with you, my brothers and sisters, that because of Philip we shall overcome the evils that existed in government. I tell you this in all sincerity, that again, love, truth, and courage to do what is right at the next general election, I bring it up again, will be our guidepost to the journey to reach our goal when Philip is re-elected as at the next general election. It is at this juncture of the program, once again, Taiwan comes to the fore. It is important to mention that on Thursday, they celebrated what is termed the 10-10 celebration, when Taiwan came to the fore worldwide. So tonight, the ambassador to Taiwan highlights his country's success and shows how the bond between Taiwan and St. Lucia is tightening. Not only that, but how Taiwan, over the years, as we all know, is helping St. Lucia on all fronts. This help is given whether in aid or in kind, more so in the field of technical assistance, which includes new technology. And this is without a doubt teaching us how to fish. Not just giving us the fish, but teaching us how to fish. They are without a doubt a valuable friend to St. Lucia. The ambassador spoke of the unwavering support that the Minister of Health, Moses Jean-Baptiste, has given Taiwan at the World Health Organization, and why they must be included in that body. He also mentioned the pivotal role that the Prime Minister, Philip Joseph Pierre, and the External Minister, Alva Baptiste, had when they gave Taiwan or spoke about Taiwan at the United Nations General Assembly in their speeches. Their emphasis and focus was directed as to why Taiwan must be a member of that body. They made clear that without a doubt Taiwan is a fully democratic country and is an example to the world in terms of what true democracy is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, I allow you now to hear the ambassador of Taiwan as to what he has to say on their anniversary of his country coming into being.
Good day. My name is Peter Chen, Taiwan Ambassador to St. Lucia. This year is the 130th National Day of the Republic of China, Taiwan. 2024 is the year of the dragon, a symbol of power, strength, and good fortune. Much like the extraordinary achievements of Miss Julian Alfred at this year's Olympic Games. Her perseverance and unwavering spirit inspire us all. It's with this same spirit of determination and success that the cooperation between St. Lucia and Taiwan continues to thrive. Earlier this year, Taiwan successfully held its 8th direct presidential and vice presidential election, a significant milestone in our democratic journey. Taiwan's democracy is internationally recognized, and our government remains committed to strengthening ties with diplomatic allies. Beyond our enduring partnership with St. Lucia in agriculture, infrastructure, education, and social initiatives, this year we witnessed the launch of the Library ICT Digital Development Center and the Feng-Shui Chart Interpretation Center, and the product label launch ceremony. Of course, many more collaboration and achievements abound. These initiatives highlight the deepest strengths of our relationships, focus on improving the lives of St. Lucians and building capacity in critical sectors. We believe human capacity building is essential for sustainable development. Successive instructors trained in Taiwan returned with expertise in medicine, nursing, and health education. And many other St. Lucian officials and people from private sector have participated in workshops and training programs in Taiwan and St. Lucia, fostering mutual growth. The signing of the Technical Cooperation Agreement between the Taiwan Technical Mission and the National Skills Development Center also marks a major milestone, providing 50 youth athletes with valuable upskilling opportunities. Aligned with Prime Minister Honorable Philip JP's Year of Infrastructure Vision, Taiwan continues to support the Constituency Development Program, ECDP, through ongoing funding disbursements, promoting sustainable development and prosperity in local communities. Moreover, Taiwan proudly awarded scholarship to 35 Sanusian students to pursue higher education in Taiwan. We also introduced Mandarin language courses at Viewful Comprehensive Secondary School for the first time, further strengthening the educational collaboration between Taiwan and St. Lucia. These initiatives underscore our commitment to nurturing the next generation and fostering deeper cultural ties. 2024 has also been a remarkable year of strengthening people-to-people connections between Taiwan and St. Lucia. Early this year, the Stimuli Help Organization once again generously donated charity goods to the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice, and Empowerment. Taiwan's NGO, the Cao Zongzi Foundation, also made a meaningful contribution by donating wheelchairs, steel folding Como chairs, and walkers to the Ministry for Health, Wellness, and Elderly Affairs. Additionally, the Star Fund Foundation, founded by the Taiwanese Chambers of Commerce in the United States, played a key role in sponsorship and organizing this year's highly successful AI coding competition. On the international stage, St. Lucia remains one of Taiwan's most cherished partners. In May, Honorable Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre visited Taiwan with Honorable Minister of External Affairs Alva Baptiste to attend the inauguration ceremony of the President of Taiwan, demonstrating their strong support for the friendly relations between our two nations on the international stage. And Honorable Minister Moses Jean-Baptiste advocated for Taiwan's inclusion in the World Health Organization, emphasizing Taiwan's ability to contribute meaningfully to the global health. During the UN General Assembly in this September, Honorable Minister Alva Baptiste reaffirmed Taiwan's right to participate in the United Nations and other international organizations, emphasizing that UN Resolution 2758 of 1971 does not preclude Taiwan's inclusion in the UN system. We are profoundly grateful for St. Lucia's unwavering support for Taiwan's meaningful participation on the global stage. This partnership serves as a powerful reminder that in our pursuit of global unity and cooperation, no one must be left behind. Taiwan remains an indispensable partner to the world. Taiwan also plays a pivotal role in global supply chains and holds a crucial geopolitical position. Its stability during the post-pandemic recovery has been widely recognized. In 2024, Taiwan ranked 8th in the IMD World Competitiveness Yearbook and 2nd in the Asia Pacific on the Economic Freedom Index, further solidifying our global standing. Last but not least, the 17th St. Lucia Taiwan Partnership Trade Show will be held 1st to 3rd November at the Pavilion on the ramp Ronnie Bay. This year, we have around 70 St. Lucian businesses and 14 Taiwanese businesses enthusiastically taking part or displaying their products. We sincerely invite you to join us. As we reflect on our accomplishments, Taiwan looks forward to building on our strong foundation with the government of St. Lucia. United in strength, we can achieve even greater heights. I extend my heartfelt wishes for a happy birthday to the Republic of China, Taiwan, and may the friendship between St. Lucia and Taiwan continue to flourish. Thank you.
Thanking you once again, Ambassador, for reminding our country of Taiwan's strong friendship with St. Lucia. Having heard the Ambassador, I hope and pray that those who have had any doubts about this truly democratic country is without a doubt now fully convinced that we have to fight with all our might for the inclusion of Taiwan into all world bodies that they are not part of. So the United General Assembly must look at this and bring them into the fold. So at this juncture, I'll take a break and I'll be back. Welcome back to Moving Forward. Now back to the home front, because I want us to cast our minds back 9 years back to begin with, before I end tonight's program. Ladies and gentlemen, I was doing some research and I came across Guy Joseph saying in the House that history can be cruel, but the present can be more cruel. He was then in opposition, and that was 9 years ago. I have to try to fathom what he meant then. He was bringing up a motion in terms of government contracts and the nature of the contract as being somewhat allegedly corrupt. He spoke about bills of quantities and seemed to have been going off the cuff when the Speaker of the House made it clear to him that he was off track. It was then one realized how cantankerous this little man was when he continued to defy the Speaker then, who was Mr. Forster. I'm bringing this to the fore because he made the point that every project should have a defects liability and also defects notification period. He was clear on this and insisted that if a company do shoddy work, that on the surface it looks good and in days to come it is found to be shoddy, it means that the individual firm should not be completely paid and should be brought back to finish and complete the work to one's satisfaction. Guy made me laugh because he simply forgot the shoddy work that was going up north and also the so-called desilting of the dam. Both had a piece of alleged corruption about them. Even the cul-de-sac highway that was being built was simply a fiasco as far as the public was concerned. And many saw it as a form of corruption taking place in front of our very noses. In the end, he was forced to sit by the Speaker then in the House. This is my view. This, in my view, showed how arrogant this individual was. But as I've mentioned before, a few years later, we saw that attitude come to the fore when he walked out of the House without giving an apology. At one time, he even went on to say to the Speaker, "Do what you have to do." But my biggest laugh was when the Speaker, who is a well-known lawyer, was told in an insulting manner, "Mr. Speaker, you want to interpret contract law?" The Speaker then gave him a lesson on the terms of contract law he had presented. In fact, it showed to the complainant that he was an idiot in the first degree. Nevertheless, in all conscience, to be fair to Guy, under his leadership at Infrastructure, after the passage of Thomas, many thought that the road to Bacatel was so severely damaged that it looked somewhat impossible to repair. Therefore, a form of desperation set in. It was Guy who managed, through hard work and determination, made it possible that today the road was repaired and is now in an excellent frame. Some were looking for alternatives, but he insisted. I'm of the view that facts are facts because I witnessed this feat when I was the director of the Government Information Service then. Having given him the accolade where it is due, nevertheless, I must say that we began to see a pattern between himself and his present leader, Allen, when they brought up the idea that a piece of land in 2013 was worth $13 million. Some years ago, it was sold at $3.5 million. When challenged by the Speaker as to the relevance and to the to and fro began to the extent he said, "Mr. Speaker, you want to interpret the contract as you want?" He was informed that he was being disrespectful to the House and to withdraw the statement. When the Speaker was about to impose a standing order, then I remember, and I'm speaking now of Allen, Allen walked out to show this satisfaction with the Speaker's ruling and was asked to sit when he walked out and had to be brought back to the House by the police. Never in our country's history have we seen ministers behaving in such an obstreperous and cantankerous manner until these two came along. And now they are the leader and deputy leader of their party. Therefore, what does that tell us? What I'm putting to you, the listeners, is that both Alan and Guy are a danger to our system of democracy. It seems as if they cannot get their way, more so in the House, their plan is to disrupt it as much as they can. Ladies and gentlemen, looking back, when Alan and his gang of merry men and women took office in 2016 as the present minister made clear, they destroyed a PPP plan for the airport, which was a workable plan. Because throughout the world, many airports had a PPP plan or input. But Alan ignored all this and went out to build a new airport when tourism numbers were going down. This is the nincompoop we had elected as a leader. Fair enough. I say, mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Although I was not in St. Lucia to vote, I was on my second research fellowship at a prestigious academic Seneca then. But I did support them. God was guiding me then because he opened my eyes to see. Ladies and gentlemen and viewers to this program, I want to say to you tonight to be there next Sunday because I have done a complete piece of dissemination process in terms of the Records of the Poor meeting, which was called Flambeau Meeting on Crime on the 6th of October 2024. Ask your friends to listen because after there will be some real soul searching as to why the Records of the Poor can lie so much, each and every one of them, more so the leaders and deputy leaders, including the spider's web. So before I end tonight, I want to say quite categorically that I will keep calling the opposition party Records of the Poor because of their deviousness and dishonesty and the gall to think that they have taken over the mantle of Sir John's party. This is dishonesty at the highest level because Sir John was not the Records of the Poor as this present government of Alan Chastanet or opposition of Alan Chastanet has become. Even when Alan speaks about the poor, there is a lump in his throat. So ladies and gentlemen, this is, I say this to you in all sincerity, that they are the Records of the Poor. Let us hear it loud and clear. So tonight I say to you, in all sincerity, to think positively now. Because what is going to happen is that you will see St. Jude finish long before the next election. We will survive. And you too must look at what is happening. What was there before and now and balance it out for yourself. See who are the real workers of this country as far as government is concerned. And I say to you tonight, again, once again, never forget that the good Lord said that we were black. He brought us as black people, and therefore we should be proud of ourselves as being black. So I say to you tonight to go in peace, to serve the One Most High, always. And before I go, finally, I just want to say to Alan, where is our $7.3 million that you virtually gave away for vaccines? You had no guarantee that you would receive. As I've said before, you broke all the rules of finance and government policies to get that money. I ask you a simple question as to why you made that reckless decision to use taxpayers' money or a loan, on a loan in that manner. I believe that you are a charlatan and that you personally should be made to pay back that money. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, go in peace to serve the One Most High. I say goodbye to you, and good night, and good night.